With 100% of their weapons now handed in, President Juan Manuel Santos says the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia are no more. The FARC themselves may not entirely agree with that, but they are certainly committed under the peace accords to pursue their arms through peaceful political struggle. So what are they expecting in return for laying down their guns? And can the government really deliver? Colombia's guerrillas took up arms in the 1950s and 60s over one core issue: land. Half a century later, the problem was much the same. Big landowners, less than 0.5% of the total, owned almost half of all available land, while the poorest 70% of small farms owned just 5%. Right-wing paramilitary groups, who human rights groups blame for about 80% of civilian deaths during the conflict, were set up by big landowners, with the encouragement from the US, with the express purpose of preserving this very unequal distribution of land. Point number 1 of the peace agreements reached in the Havana seeks to address the issue of land. It talks about integrated rural reform rather than land reform as such, and the government's commitment to redistributing land is modest. It promises to set aside just 3 million hectares to be given to poor campesinos. That's out of a total of 113 million hectares of rural land in Colombia. The emphasis is more on protecting the rights of existing small farmers by giving them formal deeds to 7 million hectares they already occupy, and improving their conditions by providing technical assistance, credit, and social programs while improving roads and other infrastructure. So can the government meet even these objectives? There are likely to be 2 main problems. Firstly, rural reform is conceived in market terms. Colombia has recently entered into free trade agreements with the United States, the European Union, and members of the Pacific Alliance, among others. That means large-scale export agriculture of things like sugar, bananas, palm oil, and flowers is likely to expand, while the production of basic food crops like potatoes, corn, and rice continues to flounder, and small farmers are once again squeezed off their land. Secondly, there is plenty of evidence that right-wing paramilitaries, the same ones set up to protect big landowners, not only remain active, but are expanding their influence in some areas where the FARC has withdrawn, and they are again killing campesino leaders campaigning for fairer access to the land. The same problems put in question another of the agreements in the peace deal on replacing drug crops. So while millions of Colombians rightly celebrate moves to end a devastating war, the violence against rural Colombia continues, and it will be a struggle to achieve the promises of the social justice contained in the peace agreement.